As well as at home, Anzac Day services have been held around the world, including at the Bamana War Cemetery in Papua New Guinea. It's a site where more than 3,000 Australian personnel are buried, more than any other war cemetery in the world. The Defence Industry Minister Pat Conroy was our nation's representative at that service. He joined me a short time ago to share his reflections on the relationship between Australia and PNG.
4 kilometres separates our two nations, and during World War II, Papua was still part of Australia. And so to be at Bamana War Cemetery this morning for the dawn service, where 3,300 Australians are buried, the largest war cemetery for all Australians, it was just incredibly moving. And as the fog lifted and I saw those rows of headstones, you couldn't help but be emotional about the sacrifice that we saw during World War II and throughout the entire life of Australia.
And you had the honour of meeting one of those that helped, and we know that there were many fuzzy wuzzy angels as they're called, but there were those that fought alongside our diggers as well.
Absolutely. I think most people know the Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels and the image of stretcher bearers carrying wounded diggers, but Papuans and New Guineans fought shoulder to shoulder with Australians against the Japanese as part of the battle for Australia. And in fact, 40 Papuans are buried in Bamana Cemetery. And today laying a wreath was a 92-year-old gentleman who joined up when he was 13. He fought in World War II as a 13-year-old alongside Australian diggers, helping save Australia and helping save Papua New Guinea. It was an incredible experience that will live with me to the day I die.
And you've also been up to Kokoda. I know you were there last year, but again today, you've been up on the chopper. A reminder of the landscape, that terrain that our Australians and the PNG counterparts had to battle through during World War II.
Absolutely. I had the honour of representing us at the 80th anniversary of the Kokoda campaign last year in November, and this year I flew into Isarava village for a middle of the day Anzac ceremony. And Isarava village it's literally on the edge of a cliff, edge of a mountainside, and it was the scene of a 4-day pitched battle where the Australians gradually retreated, delaying the Japanese advance, giving Australian forces and Papua New Guinean forces time to move up the track to eventually turn the tide. And it was also the site of the first Victoria Cross awarded to an Australian serviceman or in the Pacific Theatre of War. And to see the stone that marked where that VC was won was just incredible. This landscape is it's surreal. That you're on an edge of a mountain and thinking about Australian troops, Papuan troops, Fuzzy Wuzzy Angels in the mud, being shelled by the Japanese, holding out, not knowing if relief was coming as the fire poured in. It was just the sacrifice was incredible. This literally was the battle for Australia. I know we focus on Gallipoli and World War I as we should on Anzac Day, but the Pacific Theatre of War, particularly the battles around Kokoda, were the battle for Australia, where Australia was saved. And to see that sacrifice today was remarkable.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And with, you mentioned at the Bamana Cemetery in Moresby, more than 3,300 Australians buried there, Australian personnel. But across PNG, that number is around 8,000 buried in PNG. That's a big percentage of our, 103,000 Australians that have paid the ultimate sacrifice.
That's right. We've got 3 war cemeteries in Papua New Guinea, Bamana, Lae and Rabaul, and 8,000 Australians are interred there. And that's 8,000 out of 103,000 who have died making the ultimate sacrifice across the entire history of Australia. So 8% of the Australians who laid down their lives for our country are buried in 3 cemeteries in Papua New Guinea during the course of World War II, and just demonstrates our close connection with Papua New Guinea and the importance of Pacific security to Australian security. So it was a remarkable thing, and something that I think more Australians should really learn about.
Yeah, indeed. And so when you look at obviously it's something that resonates for Australians, New Zealanders. Is it a day that resonates in PNG?
It does. The Governor-General, Bob Dade, was there, as was the Minister for Defence, and the Governor of Kokoda Province, Northern Province, accompanied me to the Isarava Memorial. So it's an important day. The Chief of the Papua New Guinea Defence Force was there. They commemorated, and in fact, Governor Juffa, the Governor of Northern Province, said to me at Kokoda, the battle there was also the day when Papua New Guinea became a nation, in his view. It's a day where Papuans shed blood, New Guineans shed blood fighting for their freedom, and it's a day that really sparked the start of their independence. And obviously, I'm so proud that Australia, through the Whitlam Labor government, partnering with the father of the nation here, Sir Michael Somare, were able to deliver that independence in 1975.
And as Minister for Defence Industry, I've got to ask you a couple on the Defence Strategic Review. Such a major shift in our posture, defence posture, detailed yesterday by the Prime Minister and the DPM. When you talk about the sovereign capacity to build missiles, and then on top of that, we've got the submarine requirement. As Minister for Defence Industry, have we got the scope to do this?
Oh, we do. Yeah. We have to build up our workforce, and one of the things we did out of the AUKUS submarines announcement was allocate $30 billion over the life of the program, including $3 billion in the next 4 years to train Australians. We've got this old-fashioned concept that we'll actually pay to train Australians rather than try and poach them from other industries. Because you're absolutely right, if we poach them, there aren't enough. But if we train them, we can obviously have Australian-made submarines and Australian-made missiles, and we can develop high-tech industries. Constructing nuclear-powered submarines is the most advanced manufacturing that's occurring in the world, and Australia will be at the centre of that as we develop this program. So it's a tremendously exciting time to be the Minister for Defence Industry, and it's a great privilege.
And one of the other areas where we've got to build sovereign capacity is in the area of fuels. There's going to be a fuel council or whole of government fuel council established. How soon can we expect that to deliver results?
Oh, look, I think that will take some time, and we'll need to coordinate with the civilian authorities. But fuel security is massive, not just for the ADF, but for the country as a whole. And that was part of the critical election commitments we gave, including the commitment to establish a maritime strategic reserve fleet. And so what you're seeing from the Albanese Labor government is a concept of national defence. So not just ADF there to defend the nation, but using all tools of government to support our national security, and fuel security is a great example of that.
Let me get your reaction quickly. I know you've got some other commitments in PNG. I want to ask you though, Andrew Hastie said, despite the urgency of the strategic challenge, this is his quote, we don't have a strategy until next year. We've seen no new dollars spent. In fact, we're actually seeing cuts and cannibalisation of army capability. What do you say to Mr Hastie?
Well, I'm hesitant to buy into this on Anzac Day, to be honest, Kieran. I think this is a day for solemn reflection and commemoration. But I'll make a couple of quick points. One, that the strategy was released yesterday. Yes, there'll be an update through the National Defence Strategy next year, but the strategy was released yesterday, and we've been upfront that involves making hard choices. The last government added $42 billion of spending commitments to the defence budget without adding a single dollar. So if you don't add another dollar, you have to cut or reprioritise other projects to deliver those projects you're now committing to. And that's what we've done. We've made the hard choices, things that are lower priority, with either delayed, rescoped, or a limited number of cases cancelled, in order to free up funds. In this case, we've allocated $19 billion to invest in reshaping the Australian Army, investing in long-range strike, going from an Australian Army that can reach 40 kilometres with its weapons to one that will reach over 500 kilometres, investing in things like joint strike missiles for our F-35s and sovereign missile manufacturing capability. So we make no apologies for that. We've made hard choices. We've been transparent with the Australian public, and we've committed over the medium term that defence funding will rise above its current trajectory. But ultimately, we're being honest and transparent. We don't treat the defence budget like a magic pudding, which unfortunately is what occurred under the last government.
Now, finally, Phil Thompson, a veteran himself, he said, and he's the Assistant Shadow Minister, he said, I'm absolutely appalled that the Prime Minister and Defence Minister are so out of touch to release the Defence Strategic Review the day before Anzac Day. He's been annoyed by that choice and the timing. Have you got any reaction to that?
Oh, well, Mr. Thompson's entitled to his opinion. What you saw yesterday was a very sober, responsible government releasing a policy in the area which is our number one obligation, which is the national security of the nation. You didn't see any razzmatazz. You didn't see Top Gun music or prime ministers sitting in fighter jets. What you saw is a sombre release of an important policy. And we're not politicking today. I came on to talk about Anzac Day. We'll talk about the DSR tomorrow. Today is about sombre reflection about the sacrifice. We had last year's Anzac Day during the election campaign, and everyone paused during a very heated political debate to commemorate the sacrifice of 103 Australians and obviously countless others who were wounded and served. And then the next day you got back into the political debate. That's what this government does because we're responsible. We don't politicise defence. We don't politicise national security. We do what's right for the nation.
Joining me from Port Moresby, Minister for Defence Industry, Minister for the Pacific, Pat Conroy. Thanks as always.
Thanks, Kieran. Have a good day.